Hey everyone, welcome to Darkling Alley. We're back for episode 5 of our Alan Wake post-gameplay discussion recap, so let's get started. So the radio broadcast playing while Alan and Barry are in jail, asleep, is the same one that was playing while Jake from the prequel Bright Falls is driving through town. This detail is extremely vital to the events of the story. And a quick note, during the radio broadcast, it's shown to be daytime. When Alan and Barry finally wake up, it's evening. In a manuscript page, it talks about how Alan and Barry were hauled off to jail, but Barry doesn't seem to remember how they got there, and Alan says nothing.
All the manuscript pages were gone. The FBI agent had taken them.
I think my tongue just took a crap in my mouth. Ugh. Oh, wait, we're in jail now? Oh, Al. Al, this is not good.
We also pointed out how the back door just outside of the jail cell closes on its own after several moments of Nightingale and Sheriff Breaker walking in. It had been open since Alan woke up.
She's the one in the song, the Lady of the Light.
What, the crazy lady? Ugh, whatever you
What
say,
the hell
Al,
kind
but
of
we're
game are you
stuck
playing,
here.
Nightingale?
They're
You
not
haven't
gonna...
even interviewed Wake.
I had some reading to do first, Sheriff, and let me tell you, it was an interesting read. Well, I've got you now, Raymond Chandler. It's all here. All the evidence, including conspiracy to murder a federal agent. There's no way you're walking out of here. You hear me in there, Bret Easton Ellis? Huh?
Agent Nightingale, I want to...
See how it closes right there?
Mhm.
All on its own. Or maybe someone willed it to be that way. Go the lights. And down goes Alan. You notice how this happens every time he is faced with someone that he is in conflict with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very convenient.
Well, see, at this point, the dark presence is supposed to be after him, too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at least that's what he's been telling us in the story. It doesn't want him to get to the cabin now.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
See you later, Nightingale.
He's gone. We don't have to worry about him anymore.
Good riddance.
Good riddance.
He's
Like
kinda...
Alex Casey.
Yeah. Yeah, Nightingale's kind of a douche.
Okay, so here's where we're going to see that Sheriff Breaker she did take Alan's weapons and ammo. And she's going to unlock those for him and give them back to him so that way they can go on their mission to get to Cynthia Weaver. But he was, like we had mentioned before, he did manage to get away with the revolver.
Mm-hmm.
She just took all the rest of his stuff, so. But why did she take his flashlight?
Yeah, you would think if
That's
she's
non-deadly.
Yeah,
Well,
she's gonna give him anything.
Yeah, I mean, deadly to the taken maybe, but then he still ended up with a flashlight anyway. I don't know. He has what he needs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're going to get to see something that I've been extremely excited about this whole time, and that is that the bridge welcoming them to Bright Falls in the beginning is gone. It's disappeared.
That's some David Copperfield right
Yeah,
there.
you've said that like 3 times.
I know.
It actually is gone the very next day. Well, not the very next day, but when Alan first goes to the sheriff's station for the first time. If you look while you're in the area with the truck, looking for Alice's driver's license, you can already see that the bridge is gone by that day.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now here I'll do I'll do a lot of showing to try to really drive home and prove that, yes, the bridge is no longer there. So that was one of the things I was so excited to share with everyone. And we actually did. We did, of course, point it out in our gameplay because, again, this is recap and discussion. So we are going to talk a lot. So Barry is in the office making phone calls. And if you notice, it looks like the lights are off again.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that one little lamp that he's using to see the phone numbers and whatnot. And so he looks like he's kind of in the dark again. But if you kind of spy on him from outside, you could hear his conversations. But what is interesting, actually what is super cool about Barry is that when the wind picks up again and the take-ins start coming, if Alan goes back to that window to see Barry making the phone calls, he's gone. He's completely gone. And all the lights are off. I think that one little lamp, the one little lamp is still on. But like when Sheriff Breaker turned the lights on, all of the lights came on. in her office, in the hallways and everything. But Barry is in the dark, just like before at the Cauldron Lake Lodge when he got sent into that dark room. Somehow, at this point, being in the dark has no effect on him. But I would like to know why he disappeared. Did he just make his phone calls and then go lay down somewhere to sleep off his hangover? He went to order pizza is what it was. So Barry, for some reason, can be in the dark alone and not suffer any consequences until I think later on. Later on, he'll encounter some Taken, but it's usually, when Alan's around. So very strange. If anyone has any answers or ideas as to why this is, let us know. Otherwise, I have some ideas. I'll share them with you soon. So yeah, here I am trying to show again. I'm really driving that home that the bridge is gone. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's not just that the bridge is gone, but it's how it is mentioned in other places. So like, for instance, Clay Stewart found a picture from Nightingale. That Nightingale took a picture of the bridge and he made a note that he wasn't sure what the significance of that picture was. And then the FBC, they took a picture of that same area for whatever reason, and there was no bridge there. So again, we have that sort of like hinting towards the alternate realities.
When Sheriff Breaker asks Alan what happens to Rose, he tells her what he thinks happened.
I'm gonna want explanations, For example, what the hell happened to Rose? She's seriously messed up now.
The same thing I think happened to me after I arrived.
During this week, you can't remember?
Oh, I remember now.
But it doesn't change the direction of the conversation. She just doesn't say anything or question him any further.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I remember now. And like, that's it. But
Yeah.
It's so funny the way he said it was like kind of just, it was almost sarcastic.
It was.
But it didn't go anywhere. She just didn't say anything. It's like, oh, okay. She didn't even say that. She just didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he was trying to do there, but he could have said something, but he didn't explain anything.
I think she would have made some sort of comment.
Well, yeah, she's a sheriff. She's supposed to question stuff.
Yeah.
She's supposed to get down to the bottom of things. Maybe she just doesn't care.
We point out how the TV for the Night Springs episode works, even with the power outage. This episode is Taken in his prime.
That sucks. That poor guy.
Yeah.
And he was young and he no longer has free will or something like that.
All he wanted was a job in the service industry.
That's all.
Yeah.
But I mean, service. Like, that's noble or humble or whatever. Yeah, he was trying to do the right thing and they hated him for it.
Oh.
That's why you don't go to Night Springs.
That's right. And that's why you don't try to get a job in the service industry.
Or get a job at all.
Yeah, what's a job? Jobs are overrated.
In Night Springs.
When Alan examines the statue regarding the town's history, we realized that the oldest date that we found in the game is 1745 at the Cauldron Lake Lodge.
Yes, I wanted to know more about that. That was a guy named John Smith, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
John Smith died in 1745, and that's that engraving. We really need to put that in Photoshop and see if we can make it, because it says something about, it says this game. And I don't know if they're talking about Alan Wake or if what it is, what the message is, but it's like engraved into all of these sculptures around the gazebo.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do that. I think we should make that a mission.
Yeah.
In order to provide good information to viewers.
We should.
Complete and valuable information.
That's right.
So yeah, we'll try to do that. We will take a look at it and we'll try to put it maybe in our next video. The bookstore. Okay, so in our gameplay, we pointed out that Hartman's book isn't in here. It's nowhere. So what do we say? Either his book was so bad that they didn't keep it in stock, or it was so good that they couldn't keep it in stock.
Mm-hmm.
One of the two, but I have a feeling it was either that it was just really bad, or maybe it just didn't exist at all. I guess we'll see. But there was also something else we focused on up here too. Okay, now this is kind of messed up because I think this is supposed to be the children's section of here. I think. But on this table here, there are just the two books. There's the Within Side, which we know Alan sees all the time, and that spiral is going to show up on the door at the Ocean View Motel. Mm-hmm. And then next to it is Black Lace and White Lies, and it has that like boot. Kind of looks like Alice's boot, actually. And I sort of thought that maybe this has something to do with the two of them. I could be totally wrong, but it's weird how they're placed like side by side in what I think is the children's section. I mean, I saw some other books up there, but I don't know. Was there a sign that said children's? I thought there was some indication it was children's, but in any case, they don't sound like children's books to me. So maybe it's a hidden message. Now, this is something else that we talked about, the burning of the white candles in the church and how strange I thought that was. And they burn them the night before Deerfest. And she just says that, Sheriff Baker, she just says it's tradition, but it is kind of a weird one. They have a church service the next morning, no matter what day it is. It could be like a weekday, it could be the weekend, Sunday, whatever. I guess what? Does the whole town shut down for Deerfest?
Sounds like it.
They shut down for Deer. They go to church, and yeah, I thought that was just kind of a weird sort of. She says it's a tradition, but it seems more like a ritual. But I don't know. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to find out more in Alan Wake 2. And of course, we have another Stephen King reference, and that is the helicopter. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people have noticed this, but it's 1408. I don't know. 1408 is. Actually, it's a pretty good movie. Was it a short story?
Yeah, short story.
Yeah, 1408. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It was a good watch. But if you noticed coming into town that they have only the one helipad, but there's no helicopter when they get to town. But the FBI helicopter chases them later, and then it crashes, whatever. And now there's a helicopter there. And from the bottom of the town, when you're having the fight in the street with Sheriff Baker, it's like all lit up. You could see there's like a couple spotlights, and it's like there in all its glory, and you can't miss it. It's almost as if Alan wrote one back into existence because he knew that they would need it later to get to Cynthia Weaver. How else are they going to get to Cynthia Weaver? It's like way the hell up north, and all the cars were thrashed from the Dark Presence, so this is kind of the only way. And speaking of Stephen King, I did mention in our gameplay that I also see similar things. I don't just see Stephen King and David Lynch in Alan Wake. I see things like Shutter Island and Inception. Identity is also, they modeled the motel that they used in American Nightmare after the motel in Identity. So that's really cool to watch that one. But there's so many other movies that have similar themes and tropes, not just Stephen King. As a matter of fact, when you start comparing it to other works, you see less Stephen King and more other things. So I don't know. It's kind of worth thinking about.
Here's where Alan finally finds a manuscript page, confirming that the end still needs to be written.
The story I had written in the cabin had come true. Touched by the dark presence, I had written a horror story. But the end was still missing. The story was incomplete, and the last unfinished page of the manuscript still sat in the typewriter in the cabin study. If I could get back there, if I could read the page, then I could write my own ending to this story and save Alice.
And this is in-game Alan, our playable character. So we had that segment at the end of the dream where he said that he remembers what happened and that he had Tom Zane come and, break him out of his trance or whatever so he could escape. So you would think like, oh, well, that's where he, remembered it from. It might be, but this is the first time he actually finds a manuscript page saying so. Beginning of the game, though, before Tom Zane broke him out of his spell, he was talking about finishing the manuscript, but he hadn't even come across anything saying that he hadn't finished it yet.
We focus on the sign about the man who saved some children from a burning car. We then show that there is a car that's been burning in a group of crashed cars next to a school bus, as if it just happened, or just happened, again.
History repeating itself?
Another time loop.
Another time loop for someone else, maybe. And we've got another episode of Night Springs. This one is an absence of creativity. We did decide that we're not going to discuss these episodes in our videos, or at least these ones. But yeah, I mean, this one's kind of a cool one. This was, I think, one of my favorite ones next to the quantum suicide. So we didn't mention this before, but when Alan gets back from this little task that Cynthia sent him on, she turns the spotlight off and it makes the same light switch cord sound that you can hear from before from Tom Zane and in Control. That was something that we didn't mention, and we're mentioning now. And then now we start hearing that creepy breathing again. While Cynthia is explaining to Alan what happened to Tom Zane and I guess Barbara Jagger as well. Okay, so Alan finds this manuscript page, and we'll probably just play it because it's a lot easier that way, I think. So let's just go ahead and do that.
Thomas Zane knew he had to remove all that had made this horror possible, including himself. That was the only way to banish the dark presence he had unleashed and now looked at him through the eyes of his dead love. But he also knew that despite his best efforts, it might someday return. So even as he wrote himself and his work out of existence, he added a loophole as insurance, an exception to the rule. Anything of his stored in a shoebox would remain.
All right, so then I mentioned in our gameplay that I personally don't think that Tom Zane wrote the shoebox rule. If anything, it was an oversight on the part of the FBC. A lot of people keep things in shoeboxes. I think it's just one of those things, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've got lots of stuff in a shoebox.
Yeah. I mean, people keep trinkets and, keepsakes and letters, greeting cards, whatever. They're so widely used for so many things that it wouldn't surprise me if it was just, already an item that you could store things in and have it keep safe and unharmed from whatever. So yeah, I do not think that Zane wrote this rule into all of reality across the globe that applies to everyone. That wouldn't make sense. When the AWE is over, that's all over with, because they said it was local and for a limited time. Why would that not apply to Tom Zane? Because he tried to write himself out of reality completely? Well, I don't know, probably not, but I don't think that he made that rule.
When they approach the Wellet room, we revisit something we mentioned at the beginning of Chapter 1. We'll just play the video first.
There's an old army base in Raincoat. It was active during the Second World War. They operated here back then. They must have built this.
Yes, they did. It's my place now.
So we talked about how in his dream at the beginning of the game, there was a sign for Rain Cove Point and how it turned out to be a real place in this reality. And Sheriff Breaker just confirmed that.
And we intentionally did not comment on this Zane letter in the shoebox because it's more an issue of writing than the events of the game. So it will be covered in our analysis video on Alan's writing. And that's it.
That's all.
I think that's going to be what I say from now. And that's it. So we'll be back with the final episode, episode 6. Not a whole lot happens in it. It's a lot of Alan just doing his own thing. But we have a couple things to say, and we will be back with that.
Darkling Alley, out.
OUT.